Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel Skinny on Carbs. My name is Andrea, and on this channel I try to use my background in biology, histopathology, and naturopathic medicine to help you live the life that you dream of and deserve. Okay, so where do I fall on the sugar versus starch thing? I made a short about this. I'll try to dive a little bit deeper in this video about where I stand as it pertains to sugar versus starches. Personally, for me personally, my choice is going to be sugar via fruits. Okay, so I choose sugar, not isolated sugar. When I say sugar, I'm talking about fruits and veggies. Okay, so I choose fruits and veggies over starches, and here's why. So there is sort of a link that nobody talks about, even in the weight loss community, because they're focused on other things. They're focused on macro splits, they're focused on calorie deficits and all this other stuff. And there's something simpler than that that I have seen in myself and the people that I've coached and in the women that I've helped that have been on keto that completely trash themselves and their digestion. And the simple thing that's overlooked in weight loss is digestion. Okay, when I first started to lose weight, I paid no mind to macro splits. Okay, macro splits was not a thing for me. Where my line of focus was on my digestion. That's really where I sort of officially went raw vegan. I had been doing sort of raw vegan before that, for, high fruits, high sugar before that for about 2 years, but I didn't even know I was actually doing it. I was trying to lose weight at that point, and I had gotten to a certain point and I was happy there, right? So at my heaviest, I was around 165. And just for context, I am only 5'4". So for me, that was heavy, okay? And I had gotten myself down to the 130s, with starches and fruits, right? So I was high carb with fruits, but I had to put in a lot of work to do it, meaning exercise in order to do it, in addition to the diet changes. When I decided to go after my digestion, at that point, I did not want to lose weight. I was not looking to lose weight. I was happy with where I was, okay? Because I was at my sort of high school weight or my pre-pregnancy weight when I had gotten to that point. So I was really looking to improve my digestion because I noticed that when I went back to my regular diet, right, which was highly cooked, my digestion was off again. And so I was just sick of it. And I'm like, my husband said to me, maybe you're one of those vegans, you need to eat raw food. And I was like, what? I didn't even know what that was. With as much naturopathic training as I had, I still didn't even know raw vegan was a thing. And I looked into it for in my own selfish reasons and other reasons. And I decided to go with it. And when I did, there was no such thing as a macro split for me. I was just, as long as it's raw, I was eating it. And when I tell you the weight came off, the weight came off. And I ramped my calories up like crazy because it was just not enough. I just kept going and going and going because, I'm used to feeling a certain density of food in my stomach, and when you eat raw, you don't get that anymore. So you're relearning, which is what I've been telling you guys for a long time, is that you guys have to relearn your relationship with food and relearn what hunger actually looks like. So I was eating enough, but I was still losing tons and tons of weight, and I realized at that point that my sort of foundational naturopathic training was correct, and it was accurate in saying that a lot starts in the gut. Most, if not all, of your dis-ease or unease starts with the gut. Okay, and so what I sort of have taken with me in my own practice and in with myself is that I simplify nutrition. Okay. So I don't take in an abundance of complex nutrition, meaning I don't take in an abundance of complex carbs, I don't take in an abundance of complex proteins, and I don't take in an abundance of fats, okay, or complex fat like fatty acids. Not fatty acids, but fats. It's the complex form of fatty acids. So I don't do that. I simplify my digestion, and I found that when you simplify your digestion, even if you don't pay attention to a macro split, you can still lose weight, and pretty fast too, okay? So in the weight loss community, nobody pays attention to that. Nobody pays attention to digestion. Nobody pays attention to optimizing digestion in order to optimize your weight loss. Everybody is looking at calories and macro splits. And so they work, but you still have to put a lot of effort into it. And so if you're eating complex nutrition, so if you decide to lose weight with, let's say, starches, you have to start, then you have to play a different game. And it's the game that nobody likes, because nobody wants to hear that you need to be in calorie deficit in order to lose weight. But if you're working with starches, you have to play that game, right? And so when you're working with starches, now you have to play the game of the calorie deficit, as opposed to allowing your body to implement the calorie deficit, meaning run your metabolism in a way where you're burning more calories than you're taking in calories, right? Now you're trying to force that with your left brain, logical, run the numbers sort of way. So that's what happens with starches. So if you're taking in starches, you have to play a different game, meaning you got to look at your calories and you have to burn your starches. Sugars via fruits practically need no burning. Your body burns that. When it comes to starches, you have to burn the starches. So if you look at many of the starch eating societies, everybody likes to point to them and say, well, we were eating starches, way back when, and nobody was big. Okay, but 2025 living is not 1905 living, okay? People that were starch is a society builder. So you're looking at communities or a time in society when people were active, okay? And I'm not talking about going to the gym active. I'm talking about farming, gardening, industrial revolution type active, okay? We were not sitting around at desk jobs. TV wasn't a thing, okay? The phone wasn't a thing. Wi-Fi wasn't a thing. So you have all these mitochondrial disruptors, because sitting is a mitochondrial disruptor. So we have all these mitochondrial disruptors, and we're wondering why we can't lose weight when we eat the same starches that our forefathers were eating. And that's because we are just living in a different time. You can't just eat. If you're going to eat the starches in order to lose weight, you have to bring in the activity. You have to burn it, okay? So it depends on what you want your strategy to be. Can you lose weight with starches? Yes, you can. But from what I have seen and have gathered, anyone that has lost weight using starches has a lot of movement built into their lifestyle. So either they have natural movement built into their lifestyle, like maybe they have a job that forces them to move or stand, like maybe they're working at FedEx and they're throwing boxes all day or something, or they have a gym routine or an exercise routine, right, that they're doing, and so they have that built in, and so you can lose weight on starches. I don't think starches make you gain weight, right? So if that's the strategy that you want to use, then you can go ahead and use starches to lose weight. But if you don't have that amount of activity built in, or you don't have that kind of time built in, then the sugars are going to be the easiest way to go. And sugars via the fruits and the vegetables are going to be the easiest way to go, okay? Because you are optimizing your digestion. I had lunch a little while ago. You're optimizing your digestion. You're not putting in so much energy to digest the starches. Starches are complex carbohydrates, right? There's a very heavy input from the body in terms of enzymes, blood flow, nervous system energy that goes into breaking down food, more than you know. And if you're doing this constantly, 3 times a day, 4 times a day, then what your body does is, somebody would say, well, there's a lot of energy input into breaking down the food, so I should be losing weight. No. Remember, I've said in multiple videos that your body is not stupid. Your body will regulate, so it offsets things. Your body is very efficient. You are not. So your body will, and this happens with exercise too. If you over exercise, your body will just compensate. It doesn't burn more calories. It will compensate by bringing down your basal metabolic rate. And it's the same thing with digestion. If you stress the body, right? If you overly stress the body, exercise, digestion, anything like that, your body is going to downregulate other activities in order to offset the cost that you are incurring through these other activities. And by doing so, you will not get to your weight loss as easily as you could have if you had simply soothed your nervous system, eased your digestion, and let your basal metabolic rate get to where it needs to in order to burn the fats that it wants to, because your body actually wants to get rid of the weight, but you can't force it to do this. You can't do that. I'm sorry to tell you, everybody. I mean, you can. Let me not lie. I have to eat my words. You can do it, but most people cannot sustain it. We've seen this over and over and over and over again, okay? Most people cannot sustain it because what they do is they fight their body into weight loss. They push their body into weight loss. And so your body, you can't sustain it. It always comes back somewhere or another. So where do I fall in terms of the sugar starch debate? I'm on the side of sugar. I'm on the side of sugar. If you want to use starch, you can, but you do have to have other inputs. And I know some people don't like that because they like their starches, but boo-hoo, that's just the honest truth. If you look around, you'll see that. Okay, a lot of people that say I lost weight on starches, what are they actually doing? There is some type of movement built in. Either that or their metabolic rate was not as fucked as yours. That's another consideration, okay? Because what the metabolic rate that you're coming in with plays a huge role into this. So I'm just trying to be as honest as I possibly can, because I know people are out there married to their ideas and they are emotionally tied to certain concepts. But if you want to get to where you need to get to, you're going to have to release some of these emotions, okay? The tie that nobody's talking about between weight loss and nutrition is that when you look at your digestive system, ease of digestion plays a very huge role in weight loss. It just does. I know you guys don't like me to get too sciencey, so I'm not going to go into it, but that's just where I fall on the spectrum of whether or not I am for sugar or starch. Sugar, if you're trying to lose weight and you're after weight loss quickly, go with the fruits and the vegetables, raw and uncooked. I use starch very sparingly to stabilize my weight, because if I don't, my weight keeps going down, okay? So I use starch as a weight stabilizer because I'm not going to build in more exercise or activity into my day. I'm just not going to do it. So I use starch as a stabilizer, okay? And my fats stay the way they are, not because of weight, because to be honest with you, I have not seen that fatty acids, simple fatty acids, I have not really seen that it, once you get your metabolism going, I haven't seen that it wrecks weight loss. I just haven't seen it. I'm sorry. I still have overt fats in my diet, and when I was losing tons of weight, I had way more overt fats in my diet, and I was still losing weight. But my fats all came in the form of fatty acids. My digestion had been simplified. I was not running my digestion hot, okay? So I don't use fats as my stabilizer. I keep fats relatively low for health reasons, okay? Because I want to keep my insulin sensitivity optimized, and in order to do that, I don't want to have too much fatty acids running around in my bloodstream. So that's why I keep my fats relatively low. It has nothing to do with weight loss. For weight loss, I find it much more important to keep your carbs up, keep your simple sugars up, right? And to keep your digestion easy. If you do those two things, you'll lose the weight a lot quicker. All right? I hope that helps somebody. Bye, you guys.